Sure, thank you. First, I'd like to congratulate and thank leadership of the board. The Labor and Personnel Committee is now also functioning as a committee of the whole, which means that all the board members are present and working very, very well together. Two of the key items that are typically within collective bargaining, it's essentially wages and benefits. So the purpose of the narrow purpose of today's meeting, we're working in collaboration with the union. We have a union contract that's been expired for a couple of months. We're having a fact-finding meeting in February, but we thought it was important for the public to have an extra measure of transparency to know where are we now, what do we provide now. To the credit of all the teachers and collaborating with them, they're among the highest paid in Monmouth County, which is fantastic. The union works very hard on their behalf. From the benefit plan standpoint, we enjoy, and they enjoy rather, I should say, a benefit plan that dates back to the 1980s. It's exceptional. It also costs about $38,500 a year in premium. So if you look at PERC, public sector employee contractual arrangements, many of them have modernized plans, some traditional plans and that kind of thing. So the narrow purpose of today was to let the public know, well, what do we have now? For example, a zero deductible in network, a $100 deductible out of network, a $10 copayment. When you're looking at the cost drivers and the operations of a budget that's over $50 million now, these are some of the items that are being openly discussed in a positive and proactive way with the folks. So we thought we'd share through the Brown & Brown, where are we currently now? And so we're having ongoing discussions through the collective bargaining process with the HTEA reps of what makes sense moving forward for new and or current employees and having those open discussions. But for today, the question is, well, what do we enjoy right now? What are the taxpayers funding right now? Also with contributions from employees. So that's what the presentation is, the purpose of it is here, to educate the public and to refresh the data for the Board of Education. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. Good evening, board members. Good evening, members of the community, and thank you for giving us a few minutes this evening to discuss the benefits that are currently offered here at Holmdel Board of Education. My name is Gary Goldfarb. I'm a Senior Vice President with Brown & Brown Benefit Advisors, and this is Mike Morrow. He's been with us about 2 years. He joined us after 11 years at Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield, New Jersey. Want to talk about the current benefit design. Who is that? Are we doing that? I apologize. I don't know who's. Got to go. Oh, I didn't even see this here. I apologize. I didn't see this here. My fault. We want to talk about the current benefit design, the cost of the plans that are offered, and the examples of the employee contribution. So real quickly about employee contribution, in 2011, Chapter 78 was passed, and that put a cost, an employee contribution on the cost of benefits based on the cost of the plan. It was a 4-year buy-up tier, so after the 4th year, you got to the highest contribution, and the folks who earn the most money have the highest contribution. So it's a flat contribution on the cost of the plan. Currently, there are 5 plans offered at Holmdel Board of Education. There's Direct 10, Direct 15, Direct 1525, and there are 2 versions of a plan called Omnia. Now, we're going to discuss Direct 10. That's the base plan, and that's the plan that most of your employees are enrolled in. But keep in mind, all of the plans that we're going to talk about this evening use Horizon's Managed Care Network as the in-network or participating doctors. So Horizon Direct Access 10, as it said, uses the Managed Care Network. There's about 45,000 doctors participating and about 82 hospitals in New Jersey. It is the largest network available in the state of New Jersey. I'm confident, and we know that most of the doctors that your employees see are in network. There are 82 hospitals. Every hospital in Monmouth and Ocean County is participating, so it's considered in network. The plan also has Blue Card PPO. That gives employees access to hundreds of thousands of doctors and thousands of hospitals nationwide. So I'm going to jump around here, but as you see in the next bullet point, it says all doctor visits are $10, the ER copay is $25, and network hospital services are covered 100%. So that's what it means. To all these doctors who are participating, $10, that's the employee's cost share, everything's covered 100%. After that, if somebody needs to access care through the emergency room, it's a $25 copay. That copay is waived if you're admitted to the hospital. And if you go into the hospital for an elective surgery or through the emergency room, if the hospital is participating, the hospital stay is covered 100%. So those are your in-network benefits. Going back up to the second bullet point, you have Blue Card PPO. For the teachers who are in the audience, on your ID card, there's a little suitcase that has PPO written inside of it. That's the Blue Card symbol. That benefit gives all of your employees the same in-network benefits that I just spoke of at every out-of-state, so non-New Jersey, Blue Cross participating PPO doctor or hospital. So again, that opens up thousands of doctors and many, many hospitals. Cleveland Clinic, Sloan Kettering, Children's Hospital in Pennsylvania, just to name a few. Your plan also has coverage for prescription drugs. At the point of sale, it's a 10% co-insurance. So the discounted retail cost of the drug, the employee pays 10% of that at the pharmacy, and they get the medication that they need. On an individual basis, when the 10% or the co-insurance that the employee pays for any medications exceed $400, everything is covered 100% for the rest of the calendar year. So there's a cap on the amount of out-of-pocket expenditure employees have for prescription medication, and that amount doubles for family coverage. Lastly, out-of-network benefits. Your plan offers out-of-network benefits. So if you need to access care at a non-participating doctor or hospital, you have the ability to do that in this plan. To go out of network, the member must first satisfy a $100 individual deductible. It's $250 for the family. So if you need to go out of network, before you get to access care or get into out-of-network co-insurance, you must pay that $100. Once $100 is met, there's an 80-20 cost share with the member responsible for 20% and the plan pays 80%. When the co-insurance that the member pays exceeds $2,000 as an individual, all out-of-network benefits are covered 100% for the rest of the calendar year. That's how the benefits work, and the benefits reset every January 1st. Every first of the year they reset. So if an employee was getting prescription medication, they'd have to go through the first $400 of co-insurance that they pay. It's covered 100%. The same with out-of-network benefits. You have to satisfy the deductible, and then you get into the co-insurance where it's the cost share between the employee and Horizon Blue Cross. So I kind of went over this, and I apologize that you really can't see it too well, but it just goes through the benefits that I just discussed. It's in-network, a $10 copay. Preventive care is covered 100%. And basically, like I said, all in-network benefits are covered 100% after some form of copay. For most services, it's a $10 copay, except for the emergency room, where that is $25. Plan also has out-of-network, again, the $100 individual deductible, $250 family deductible, then 80% after the deductible is met that the plan pays. So the next slide are the monthly costs that the district pays for Direct 10. Again, that's the base plan and the plan that the employees are enrolled in. Most of the employees are enrolled in, excuse me. And the second set of numbers are those numbers annualized. So that is the cost for the district per employee for whatever contract status they are enrolled in. So single, 2 adults, PC is parent-child or parent-children, and then family are 2 adults and 1 or more children.
Excuse me,
just a brief clarification. There's a cost-sharing arrangement. They're Chapter 78. The employees also contribute a percentage based on their salary. So
Correct.
that's the bill, the premium bill, but there's a cost share. So I don't want to give the wrong impression that the district is paying 100%
Correct. So
of that. It's a shared arrangement with the employee.
Exactly. So there's a payroll deduction that's done. That is what Horizon bills the Board of Education. There's a cost share between the employees and the district. But those are the rates that Horizon bills the district, and those are the rates that the contribution is based off of. So we have some examples here. Again, I mentioned that Chapter 78 is based off of a percentage that the employee is put into based on their salary, and it's based off of the cost of the plan. For instance, an employee who makes under $64,999, the monthly premium is $1,252. Their annual contribution is $832. We have examples on all of these based on all 4 coverage types using salary ranges of $60,000, $75,000, and $90,000. So as I said before, as you make more money, there's a higher percentage on your contribution. So I apologize, I don't know if everyone in the audience can see, but as an example, as your salary increases, the percentage that you pay increases along with that.
Good evening. I'm going to talk to you guys about the lowest cost plan option, or the opposite end of the spectrum than what the majority of the employees here take. And this is called Omnia 10. Completely voluntary plan, and just so you guys have a baseline, we have 3 employees currently in this program today versus 360 in the direct 10 that Gary just spoke about. So I want to talk to you guys about some of the key differentials, because this is Horizon's newest product. It's about 4 years old, and it is drastically different as far as how you access healthcare versus what the direct 10 offers today. Again, the same exact managed care network, which means you have the same 45,000 doctors in the network, the same 82 hospitals in the network. But unlike the open access, direct access plans we have today, there's a tiered network, which means they put a portion of the physicians in Tier 1 and the other portion in Tier 2. In this case, we're seeing 32,000 physicians in New Jersey, or about 70% in the Tier 1 network. And what that means for your employees is they pay a Tier 1 copay to go see those physicians. So in this case, this program, it's actually $5 per visit versus the direct 10 where they're paying 10. So it's a lesser copay than the Omni 10. For those who see the other 13,000 or so in Tier 2, they would pay the same copay they have in direct 10, which is, of course, $10. Aside from the physicians, there's, again, the 82 hospitals that are in the network today. 37 of those hospitals are Tier 1, which means when your members access care at those 37 Tier 1 hospitals, you have the same 100% coverage in the facility. However, there's the other portion of hospitals that are Tier 2. So your employees that might access a Tier 2, and in Monmouth County, the only facility that is Tier 2 is Center State in Freehold. Those who use that hospital have an upfront deductible for inpatient or outpatient care, unlike their direct 10 plan. So there is some more cost share on the member, which results in some of the savings this plan offers. But the biggest change to this plan versus what the members have access to today is the fact that this plan does not have out-of-network coverage. So obviously one of the bigger concerns many employees have is the what-if situation. If I were to incur a claim or want to see a specialist or have a surgeon who's non-participating perform a service on me. In this case, it doesn't cover it except in emergent situations. So if you get admitted through the ER and you see a doctor who's not participating, that will be covered at the in-network allowance. Now, of course, the biggest kicker is this plan offers 33% savings over the base of the direct 10. So there's a significant financial impact to both the district and the employee and their contributions for this plan. So just to highlight a couple of the key differences between direct 10 and the Omnia, I had mentioned the 5 versus 10 co-pays, but the deductible on the Tier 2 side, again, for people who use Tier 2 hospitals, is $1,500 on an individual basis or $3,000 as a family. So if you have a planned procedure at Center State the employee is responsible for the first $1,500 out of pocket before it then goes to 100% coverage. Now, the maximum out of pocket on a Tier 2 side for any employee for the year is $2,000 individual or $4,000 as a family. Going back to the Tier 1 side, it looks very similar to Direct 10. The maximum out of pocket is $400, $800, the ER copay is $25, and all hospital care is covered 100% Tier 1. One other key difference I do want to mention is the fact that the prescription coinsurance goes from 10% to 20% on the Omnia plan, which means when the employee goes to the pharmacy, their cost share is not 20% of the drug, but it is still subject to the same maximum out of pocket Gary spoke about before. So if somebody incurs $400 individually out of pocket in any calendar year, they then pay nothing for the prescriptions for the remainder of that calendar year, resetting the following year. So just to give you guys an idea, I did mention the 33% savings. Obviously, you can see on an annual basis the significant overall premium savings. And I'll just take the example of family. So with Direct 10, family coverage, this is medical and prescription, is about $38,500, as Terrence had mentioned, versus the family on Omnia at about $25,000. So there's a $13,000 savings to a family in the district with the Omnia plan. And just to break it down a little further for you guys, just so you can see what it looks like on a contribution basis for employees based on Chapter 78. In a family situation, for anybody making a salary of $90,000, they can save $350 monthly in what they contribute towards their health care. So $3,500 annually back in the employee's pocket, which does cover the majority of that deductible and maximum out of pocket if they were to volunteer to use Tier 2 benefits instead of Tier 1. So there is significant savings across the board. Again, I apologize that it is very small to read, but there are significant savings within this voluntary baseline plan on the 10.
Thank you. Just a couple quick comments. The Chapter 78, that term refers to a law. That law has sunset, so we're not looking to do a deep drill into the issues, but I want to make sure that it's known that that has sunset. So that's now a negotiable item, and there are very strong feelings on both sides of the discussion. Healthcare itself is a mutual concern. When you have premiums that are $38,500, it becomes a real challenge. We have many employees that make over $100,000 a year, so 35% of that premium takes a significant amount out of their paycheck. And if you're running up the percentages, part of the concern and the channeling the union thought process is that can also absorb your compensation increases. So there are very strong concerns from a union standpoint. However, when we're looking forward over the years, from a factual standpoint, our policy renews in a few months. We're going to get another renewal. If it goes trend, if it's 3 or 4%, that may be one thing. If it's 10%, that family rate will now be over $40,000. So basically, it's a mutual issue. So the objective today was to share some of the actual facts, the public record about what the benefits are that are currently enjoyed.
And I also want the board members who have questions for them to ask questions too.
Yes.
That's the
So
other things.
Sure, and so I'll end with just clarifying that, just want to make sure that it was Chapter 78, the current status was known. So, Board President?
Yes. Because, as Joe pointed out, he's going to be first because we have new board members. So I would like new board members to be caught up as we get rolling here. So, Joe Hammer, you're up.
You mentioned one thing right at the end, I just didn't catch it and understand. You said that...
We can't hear you.
Sorry, should know that by now. I just didn't hear what you said at the last minute about the differences between what the employee pays on their annual, and currently how they're paying in their deductible with the two plans. You said something about $1,300, I just didn't catch it.
I believe you're referring to the employee's cost share if they see a Tier 2 doctor or have a surgery in a Tier 2 hospital?
No, that their monthly contributions, or their per year, like the annual.
Sure.
If they were to, like, if between Omnia versus the...
Yeah, so I just took a look, and I took the example of a family with a salary, employee-based salary of $90,000. Their contribution on a 10-month basis with Omnia would be $743. But if you go back a couple slides to the one that Gary had on Direct 10 contributions, it's $1,100. So there's $350 savings to the employee per month in Omnia 10 versus Direct 10.
$400 savings per month.
$350 per month per employee. As a 10-month employee, it's $3,500 for the year in contribution savings.
Okay,
if they were to obviously voluntarily elect to move to Omni 10.
okay. So that would cover their, if they
It would-
had to pay a $3,500 deductible or whatever, if they were going to tier 2 the entire month.
Yeah, if they chose to
I just
have,
wanted-
they chose to have a tier 2
Okay.
procedure done in the hospital, it would cover the majority in that plan year of
Okay.
their out-of-pocket expense.
But if they didn't go at all, they'd get that money in their pocket. I just wanted, I'm just trying to understand all the numbers, that's all. Thank
Since
you.
I'm a new board member, am I allowed to be asked next? Can you just explain to me, because I'm confused, what defines a tier 1 and a tier 2? Like, why are 70% tier 1? And what happens that's different that makes the other 30% tier 2?
Yeah, I'll jump in because I was with Verizon when they rolled this out. There was a lot of controversy over tier 1 versus tier 2. When Horizon rolled it out, they didn't give much specification as to why they chose who they chose. Now, the 70% includes almost all PCPs or primary care in the state. The majority that fall out are your specialists, so those who either don't cooperate or won't share data on the level that Horizon wants them to. Omnia's baseline is called population health management. So what they're doing is they're trying to work collaboratively with physicians to share data and really improve the overall health and punctual visits of your primary care to decrease chronic conditions. And those who really partnered with Verizon became tier 1. So 70% is the number today. When it first rolled out, it was actually 55%. So it has been increasing year over year. And over time, we'll probably see a much higher number of physicians in tier 1. But with this plan, you still see those physicians in the network at $10 out of tier 2.
Thank you.
One more thing, if I could add it, so there's no confusion. We spoke about, there's an estimate 45,000 participating doctors in this network. So if a doctor does not participate, or if a doctor is in tier 1, the doctors who don't participate with tier 1 automatically default to tier 2. So if somebody is considering, thinking about going into Omnia, they will absolutely have access if their doctor is participating in their direct access plan. The doctor will be participating. If the doctor's not a tier 1, then it's tier 2, so they will still have access to their doctor.
Any other questions, Brian?
I'm just curious, are you guys, with the other districts you're dealing with, are you seeing a lot of the tiered plans coming out and people working with them?
In many of our districts, we have Omnia as an offering, similar to how it is here at Holmdel. We don't have Omnia as part of a contractual settlement where it's mandatory or there was an agreement made for employees to go into Omnia. It's just on a voluntary basis.
Any questions on this side of the table? Eileen?
Yeah, I had a question on one of the slides. It says current benefits versus Omnia 10. It's page 8. Under tier 1, the copay is $5. That's actually less than
Yes.
the existing? Oh, okay.
That's correct.
I was just checking.
Yep.
I had a quick question about when I was looking at the chart. It looks like the deduction for someone who is making $75,000 is the same for someone making $90,000. So I was wondering if that's part of the arrangement that 75 is the magic demarcation mark, and at that point, I guess the percentage that you would be paying would actually be declining, not increasing, or staying the same.
The way that they rolled out Chapter 78, they tried to make it a sliding scale depending on salary. It ranges anywhere from 14 to 35%, depending on the tier coverage. And some of them overlap. So I think the single coverage is the one you're referring to, where there was a very similar contribution.
I
for
think all of
75.
them, the family was the same.
Yeah, a lot of them are because they fall within, they hold certain thresholds, and it's every $5,000 that contribution increases. But as you get towards the top of the scale, it stays close to the 30 to 35%. So it is a minimal change. So it might be 30 and 31%, which is why you don't see a drastic change in the employee contribution.
Right, but it can't be 35% for 75
It's not,
and
no.
90. That's what I'm trying to get a sense.
Yeah, these are, 90,000 is below 35% of Chapter 78. It's over
Right.
100,000 where you get the 35%.
Great, thanks.
Just a brief general question. What are you finding with the general market as far as trend on medical and prescription as far as of late? Has it stabilized? What type of renewals are you seeing out there? Or at least as far as trend? Like Aon does the research on the state health benefits plan as an example. leasing market?
Horizon has ticked up their trend a little bit this year. Last year was about 4.5%. This year it's a little bit over 7%.
And for us locally, when do we anticipate the renewal to come out for the mid-year renewal?
We have a preliminary meeting with Horizon in the middle of February.
Okay.
And, you know, I would assume the final renewal will be released the end of April.
Okay. And this benefit plan design, does it match up equally, or are there some variants on the public school health benefits plan with the state as far as the structure itself, the direct hand?
This plan is very, very similar to the direct hand plan.
Thank you.
Anything else? Any other questions? Elizabeth and Joe, you good? Or if you have any follow-up, please direct them. I mean, we'll meet next month too, but if you have any questions about the package, just please let us know. Let Terrence know. Anything else? Jamie, you're good? Pete?
Good. I think it's great information.
Thank you both for putting this together. I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page, and your ability to convey this information has been tremendous in allowing us to be sure, because I don't want to, and I don't think, I mean, Terrence can go in the back in the executive session and describe all this. I'm glad you guys came here tonight, because I don't ever feel comfortable doing that, so thank you for doing that. My question to you is, do you ever meet, you'll meet with our members, meaning our staff members, anytime soon about this information?
Anytime we're invited.
Okay. All right. You bring lunch, right?
Sure.
Okay, good. All right, well, thank you so much for coming tonight. Thank you for the handout, and if anyone has any other follow-up questions, please feel free to forward them along. Thank you. Thank you also to Terrence and Mandy for working on getting this together for tonight. I appreciate it. All right.
Good evening.
Good evening. At this point in the meeting, we get our report from our student representatives.
Hi everyone. We hope everyone had a great winter break. As the first semester is coming to a close, I think that many seniors are relieved that most of our applications and grades are done for colleges. We want to say congratulations to the new members of the National Honor Society that were inducted last night. And the Holmdel High School National Honor Society chapter will be freezing for a reason by participating in the Polar Plunge on Saturday, February 8th at 12 p.m. at Pier Village. We welcome all Holmdel High School clubs, teams, staff, and community members to join us, come support us, or help us reach our goal through a donation to Camp Sunshine. And winter sports are doing great, and we look forward to seeing the sports finish the season strong.
The junior class is currently in the beginning stages of planning their prom. The theme will be Paris, and the date is set for Friday, May 15th. Last week, peer leader sessions were held between the 10th and 7th grade students, the 11th and 8th grade students, and the 12th and 9th grade students. The discussion topic of the meeting was social media. The Holmdel mock trial team lost a close case in the finals to Cold Snack on Thursday at the Monmouth County Courthouse. Congratulations to them on a great season. The Culinary Arts Pizza Contest finale was a great success. All proceeds from the event were donated to the Jack Dowd Scholarship Award, which consists of 2 $1,000 scholarships given to graduating seniors in June. Huge congratulations to the team that put together this year's winner, the Sushi Pizza.
Thank you both. Thank you both for coming and for your report. Ms. Briamonte, do you have a question?
I do. The topic about the peer leaders topic on social media, like what would be an example of, for the public, like what goes on in those meetings, or what would have been topics that were discussed regarding social media?
So the meeting, to start it, we watched a video on, I guess, social media's effect on us in society, like attention span, how we like react to certain situations. And then when we broke off into our separate groups, like my group, we talked about how we behave on like Instagram versus when we're like in public. And like, are we proud of like who we follow, what we like? Like we asked the students to put their phone to the middle, and whoever got notification first, we were challenged to not grab and look at it. Or we asked them to look through their followers and ask them, are you proud of who you follow? So it was more like your presence online and offline.
Any other questions?
No, I just want to say thank you. That's fantastic that your generation is taking the lead on the social media dynamics and the communication breakdown that at least from my perspective, it's wholly responsible for. So that's fantastic.
Thank you.
Can I have a show of hands for the, to accept the report of the student representatives? Thank you both. Thank you, everyone. The superintendent report.
Yeah, so I just want to add that, we're really proud of the changes that are being made to the peer leadership program. For those who don't know, our peer leadership program, our 12th grade students meet several times a year with our 9th graders. Our 11th graders meet with our 8th graders, and our 10th graders meet with our 7th graders. So it's a complete sort of coverage of the complex, engaging in similar topics at developmentally appropriate levels. So I'm really proud of that work. Good evening, everyone, and Xingnian Kuale to everybody out there. Happy Chinese New Year. Before I share some highlights from across the district, I want to take a moment to recognize the individuals seated here on the dais. January is School Board Recognition Month in New Jersey, a time to raise public awareness of the roles and responsibilities of local boards of education and to thank school board members for their efforts. School board members, as you probably know, devote countless hours to their communities and public education. And they do that on behalf of children, and they do it without receiving a dime. So please join me in a show of gratitude to the members of the Holmdel Township Board of Education for their work on behalf of the children of our community. So I think with the board president's permission, I would like to say that I'll post my report, which is chock full of exciting things happening across the district, and recognitions. I'll post it online tomorrow for all to read.
That would be awesome. Thank you so much.
I do have an enrollment report, which I will share with you.
Okay.
Currently in our district, we have, we're actually registering kindergartners this week for the class of 2033, I think. But currently we have 782 students at Village School, 742 here at Indian Hill, 526 at SATS, and 937 at the high school for a total of 2,987. And I also have an HIV report, which I think some of our work in peer leadership and social emotional learning must be paying off, because we had 2 cases alleged this month at the high school, and both were not confirmed cases of HIV, and those were the only cases in the month of January to be reported and investigated.
Anything else? Any questions? Okay. We're going to move on to committee reports. Brian Foster, you're up.
Last chance, aye.
All you.
Good evening, everyone. This is the committee notes from the Holmdel Board of Education Budget and Finance Committee meeting from January 22nd at 7 p.m. We started with the Holmdel 2020 referendum update, the field reconstruction at SATS and the high school. We're up to the closeout documents, and final payment application were received by Greyhawk. All documents have been forwarded to the central office for processing. Interior renovations and exterior site renovations at Village and Indian Hill School. At both Village and Indian Hill Elementary Schools, all work is completed with the following notations. The as-built survey was received by Edwards Engineering, and a punch list was generated. The contractor is completing the last parts of that punch list. The contractor has forwarded closeout documents electronically for the architect's review prior to a formal submission of the hard copies of the closeouts. And finally, a certificate of substantial completion has been issued to M&M with a date of September 4th, 2019. The exterior site additions and renovations and interior alterations at SATS and the high school. At SATS Middle School, the new lighting fixtures for the new space that were installed last month were postponed until a roof leak can be addressed. Room 204 has been completed by the contractor with the exception of the installation of the door towards the cafeteria that is expected to be completed soon. Room 205 has been completed by the contractor with the exception of the vinyl floor tile, for which a credit was offered and accepted. The district most recently installed a new wood dance floor in lieu of the vinyl floor. The addition of mirrors and wall railing is expected in the short term to complete that space. At the link, the underground utilities have been installed and the floor slab has been poured and connects the exterior doors by classrooms 114 and 115. The new entrance, the roof decking is complete, underground utilities have been installed, and the floor slab has been poured as well. Construction of the interior masonry partitions has also begun. Miscellaneous items, the new lockers that will be installed this summer in the hallways have their numbering system completed and will be submitted to the contractor. At the high school, in the engineering wing, the work within the engineering wing is complete. The TV studio, control room, and editing room are occupied and fully functional. The TV studio sound panels have been designed and will be installed in-house. The fabrication area has had equipment delivered, all of which will be installed into the new space. At the PE wing, the install of the exterior masonry block walls is almost complete, and the majority of the interior masonry partitions are erected. Got a lot of notes, guys. Wiring is being run throughout the space for lighting, electric, communications, and security. Rough plumbing piping has commenced for both sanitary and storm. The roofing materials have been loaded into the roof. In addition, the cowl wall, which is a translucent windows and walls, which I just learned that definition, material is on site and will be installed along in conjunction with the roofing to begin the enclosure of the building envelope. The new lockers, again to be installed, have their numbering system completed and will be submitted to the contractor. At the high school in SATS, just some miscellaneous items. Currently, there are ongoing issues with some potholes, curbs, and inlets that are in need of repair. These areas, especially at the west end of the SATS driveway and the high school main parking lot, will be repaved and repaired respectively during the summer. Presently, the grounds crew is installing temporary patching as necessary. Our second item that we discussed was the 2018-19 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report Update, which we heard earlier from Michael Andriola and his partner Robert Provost from PFK, O'Connor and Davies, gave the committee an overview of the district's annual financial audit. The district is in good position fiscally with no material weakness or deficiencies. The district received the one recommendation we heard earlier for student activities requiring a correction action plan, which was discussed and reviewed. The applicable resolution will be included on the January 29th, 2020 agenda for approval, which is this evening. We spoke about the Township Shared Services Agreements. In regard to the Class 3 officers, the committee reviewed the Shared Services Agreement for the Class 3 officers, which expires June 30th, 2021. In regards to the School Resource Officer, the committee reviewed that agreement as well, which expires June 30th of this year, 2020. We also spoke about the 2020/21 budget calendar. We basically discussed the budget procedures, calendar, and a timeline. Board members are encouraged to contact the business office with any questions in regards to that. And the date and time of our next committee meeting is Wednesday, February 19th at 7 p.m.
Thank you. Any questions? Just so the board knows, we will be meeting with new leadership at the Township Committee and the Business Administrator to discuss the two items that you just finished up with, the Class 3 agreement and the School Resource Officer agreement. The SRO agreement does expire this year, and the Class 3 Officer agreement requires us to meet at some point soon for the purpose of discussing ways in which we could share the cost, because presently the board shares the entire cost for the Class 3 operation. So we'll make another go at it, see what happens, and report back.
Good luck.
Thank you. We'll need it. Terrence, you have a report?
Sure. The Labor and Personnel Committee is, the report is really short. Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, many items are exempted: labor, attorney-client privilege, contractual negotiations, things of that nature. But the title of those things is public record, so it's pretty straightforward. We reviewed personnel items that are listed on the January 29th agenda. That's here before everyone. We discussed negotiations of personnel matters, and we discussed the next meeting date, which I believe is February 20th, for the next Committee of the Whole meeting for the Labor and Personnel Committee. And that would conclude the report. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Eileen, you're next.
So, buildings, ground safety met on January 22nd at 5:30. Brian did the honors of covering most of our notes. The exception would be agenda items 13, 14, and 15, which are donation requests from HYAA. And then the other item is just that we talk about so many details of the referendum, and we're really deep into the weeds, but they're overall, right now, we're on track time schedule-wise, so that's just something that we wanted to mention, since we kind of talk about things in such great detail, but overall, right now, the referendum schedule is on track. And our next meeting is February 19th at 5:30.
Thank you, Eileen, for mentioning that we are on schedule. Anyone else want to say that? No? Okay, good, thank you. Jamie, you're next.
The board met on Thursday, January 23rd at 6:30 p.m. for its first curriculum instruction / special services committee of the whole meeting. The evening began with Dr. Seeley's presentation on standardized assessments that you saw tonight. And thereafter, the board discussed the presentation as well as the critical issue of district rankings, especially those published by U.S. News New Jersey Monthly, and possible steps needed to improve same. The board raised questions, asked for further data, and made general comments regarding the presentation. The recording of the meeting has been posted online, and the next meeting will be the Thursday before the board meeting on February 20th at 6:30.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, seeing none, this part of the meeting is when we take questions and comments from the public on action items only. Hello.
Can you hear me now? Kimberly Tisillo, 21 Huntley Road. I would like to mention two things. So first, well, one is not an action item, so I'll have to email about that. Okay, so I'm here to talk about the proposed calendar for the upcoming school year. I understand that with the construction that we have a need to start late. I have no problem with that. That being said, we're losing 7 days in September where we're starting. And I point that out because out of those 7 days, comparably to this school year's end date, we're only pushing 3 of those 7 into June. By contract, the staff can be here till June 30th. That being said, we're trying to make up those other days within the confines of the actual school, September through that June 23rd or whatever it is. And in this case, you're taking it from spring break, and you're leaving on Monday, Wednesday, school week in November. We have a reputation, as we heard in one of the presentations, that we have a rigorous curriculum. We're top rated in the state. I believe as one of the Dr. McGarry's goals for this year, social emotional learning, mindfulness, the kids need a break. The staff needs a break. And to take that away and try to shove everything into such a small area of time, I don't think it's healthy for staff or students. And I'd like you to look at that and try to revisit it. And my specific questions, I do have some specific questions. Why aren't we going to June 30th? Hazlitt did it last year. They opened mid-September, they went to June 30th, all because of construction. It's a one-off year, it happens. Why are we giving a PD for staff in February? I understand it's the Chinese New Year, but I think it might have to shift. February is very late to have PD that's meaningful for the staff when more than half of the school year is over. Why are we, if we do have more than 2 snow days, why are we taking it away from already a shortened spring break and not just adding it onto June? Why is there no half day, as there has been? I've been in this town for 35 plus years. Half day before Thanksgiving has always been there. It's not in this proposed calendar. And lastly, there's a color code, finally, right? This year was the first time, for the first day of preschool, which is always different. It's always a week later, for some reason. I don't know why. Our most vulnerable, I work in preschool. and for preschool disabled kids in a different township, and those are our most vulnerable kids. Through the age of 6 is their best learning time, and they lose a whole week of instruction, number one. The fact that it's only 4 days is a whole nother situation, okay? But there's no start, there's a color code for it, but no actual start date, which leads me, I'm worrisome that if it does start a whole week late, that when extended school year stops, you're looking 6 or 7 weeks of those kids not being in school. So I would like to at least think that they would be starting with everybody else when there is such a long break. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. McGarry, you want to take those questions?
There was a lot.
So the pre-K one, the reason why there's not a color code is we're actually currently looking at expanding our pre-K from a 4-day to a 5-day program.
Awesome.
So it would begin on the same day as the rest of the school year, so that's why that's not there. PD in February, since we began using the MAP assessment, we actually find that it's helpful to have a PD day after the winter map is given, so there's some utility there. Plus, our district goals sort of run the whole year, so we do work on them periodically all year long. The side benefit of actually closing for students to participate in the Chinese New Year activities is also really important to members of the community, so that's why we also have kept that there. You're not going to get an argument from me about the need for breaks as an educator, as somebody who cares deeply about mental health, by, I think, evidenced by a lot of the initiatives I've taken. It's clearly a concern. We had a school year last year that had a very short spring break. So it's obviously a concern. I've heard from community members who don't want us moving to a June 30th end date. So trying to balance all of the different wants and needs, from the community is a challenge. And so the best that we could come up with in a very difficult year was what was presented to you and presented to the board for their consideration tonight. It's not the kind of calendar I would like to have. It's the kind of calendar that we need in order to accomplish our goals.
We're already here that last week of June. We're already here till Wednesday. What's the difference if we're here over Friday? Those would be two other days. We're already here that week. We might as well just go to the Friday.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll close that section of the meeting, and I will ask for a motion for items number 1 through 3, 5 through 11, 16, and 20 to 42.
Move.
Second. Discussion? Seeing none, may I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Flynn.
Hold it 1 second. I'm going to have to redo that one. 1 second.
Did you include 35 in there?
Yeah, I did.
So we have to take that.
Okay. Let me do that again. Can I withdraw that motion?
You need a motion for that? I have a
Let
motion.
me on the consent board. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Show of hands. Thank you. Okay, so here we go. Can I have a motion for items 1 through 3, 5 through 11, item number 16, 20 to 34, and 36 to 42?
Moved.
Second. Discussion. Seeing none, may I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Flynn.
Yes.
Mr. Saka.
Yes.
Mr. Reddy.
Yes.
Mrs. Briamonte.
Yes.
Mrs. Collins.
Yes.
Mr. Wall.
Yes.
Mr. Foster.
Yes.
Mr. Hammer.
Yes, I have to abstain on items number 1 and 2.
Mrs. Urbanski.
I will abstain on items 1 and item 2, and yes on the others.
Motion passes.
Thank you, everyone. Item number 4, approval of New Jersey School Boards Association Code of Ethics training. You all should have received your training material. Today is the day that we get to read it out loud as a friendly reminder to ourselves to abide by this code of ethics. So we'll start down with you, Elizabeth, for number 1, and we'll go around, but I'll start it off with the Board of Education members have discussed the School Ethics Act and the Board Member Code of Ethics as required under NJAC 6A:32-3.2. Resolved that the New Jersey School Boards Association Code of Ethics shall be considered the official code of ethics of the Holmdel Township Board of Education. Mr. Vansky, can you read number 1, please?
Certainly. I will uphold and enforce all laws, rules, and regulations of the State Board of Education and court orders pertaining to schools. Desired changes shall be brought about only through legal and ethical procedures.
Thank you. Mr. Hammer?
I will make decisions in terms of the, I'll make decisions in terms of the educational welfare of children and will work to develop and maintain public schools that meet the individual needs of all children regardless of their ability, race, creed, sex, or social standing.
I will confine my board action to policy making, planning, and appraisal, and I will help to frame policies and plans only after the board has consulted those who will be affected by them.
I will carry out my responsibility not to administer the schools, but together with my fellow board members, to see that they are well run.
I will recognize that authority rests with the Board of Education and will make no personal promises nor take any private action that may compromise the board.
I will refuse to surrender my independent judgment to special interest or partisan political groups or to use the schools for personal gain or for the gain of friends.
I will hold confidential all matters pertaining to the schools which, if disclosed, would needlessly injure individuals or the schools. In all other matters, I will provide accurate information and, in concert with my fellow board members, interpret to the staff the aspirations of the community for its school.
I will vote to appoint the best qualified personnel available after consideration of the recommendation of the Chief Administrative Officer.
Wrap it up with, I will support and protect school personnel in the performance of their duties, and I will refer all complaints to the Chief Administrative Officer and will act on the complaints at public meetings only after failure of an administrative solution. May I have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Discussion. And just so everyone's clear for the public too, this action that boards of education take all throughout the state, we are subject to this code of ethics. This is a code of ethics that not any other body or government has to abide by in their operations and their public duties. And we do this happily as volunteers for our community, but I think that's what sets boards of ed apart from a lot of other governmental entities in this state. So I just wanted to recognize that because it's important, and I appreciate everyone's work and time to ensure compliance with all this. Have a roll call, please.
Ms. Flynn?
Yes.
Mr. Soccer?
Yes.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes.
Mrs. Briamonte?
Yes.
Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. Hammer?
Yes.
Mrs. Urbanski?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item number 12. Mrs. Briamonte, can you read that, please?
Acceptance of non-monetary donation from the Holmdel Youth Activities Association to Village School. Resolved that the board accept with gratitude a non-monetary donation from the Holmdel Youth Activities Association, value not to exceed $7,500 for a volleyball system.
Have a motion.
Move.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, cover roll call, please.
Ms. Flynn?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Soccer?
Yes.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes, thank you.
Mrs. Briamonte?
Yes, thank you.
Mrs. Collins?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Wall?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Foster?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Hammer?
Yes, thank you.
Mrs. Urbanski?
Yes, and I feel I should also say thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Mr. Wall, can you please read item number 13?
Acceptance of a non-monetary donation from the Holmdel Youth Activities Association, HYAA, to Holmdel High School. Be resolved that the board accept with gratitude a non-monetary donation from the Holmdel Youth Activities Association, value not to exceed $1,076.25 for reversible practice jerseys for boys and girls basketball.
Thank you. Can I have a motion?
Move.
Second. Discussion? Seeing none, can I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Flynn.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Sokol.
I have no intention to reverse my vote. I would say yes, thank you.
Mr. Eddy.
Yes.
Mrs. Briamonte.
Yes, thank you.
Mrs. Collins.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Wall.
Yes, thanks.
Mr. Foster.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Hammer.
Yes, thank you very much.
Mrs. Urbanski.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 14, Mr. Urbanski. Mrs. Urbanski, can you please read that?
Acceptance of non-monetary donation from the Holmdel Youth Activities Association to Holmdel High School. Resolved that the board accept with gratitude a non-monetary donation from the Holmdel Youth Activities Association value not to exceed $4,000 of a softball shed to be used for the HYAA softball team and coaches.
Thank you. Can I have a motion?
Move.
Second. Discussion? Seeing none, can I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Flynn.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Sokol.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Eddy.
Yes.
Mrs. Briamonte.
Yes, thank you.
Mrs. Collins.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Wall.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Foster.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Hammer.
Yes.
Mrs. Urbanski.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Mrs. Collins, can you read item number 15, please?
Yes. Acceptance of non-monetary donation from the Holmdel Youth Activities Association to Holmdel High School. Resolved that the board accept with gratitude a non-monetary donation from the Holmdel Youth Activities Association, value not to exceed $578 for pitching screens for the high school softball.
Thank you. Can I have a motion?
Move.
Second. Discussion? Seeing none, can I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Flynn.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Sokol.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Reddy.
Yes, thank you.
Mrs. Briamonte.
Yes, thank you.
Mrs. Collins.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Wall.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Foster.
Yes, thanks again.
Mr. Hammer.
Yes, thank you.
Mrs. Urbanski.
Yes, thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Mr. Hammer, can you read item number 17?
Sure. Acceptance of retirement teacher WR SAT School. Whereas Ms. Kathleen Howard has served the Holmdel Township Public Schools with distinction since September 1st, 1987, and whereas Ms. Howard has faithfully executed her duties with skill and competency, and whereas Ms. Howard has earned the respect of her colleagues and community residents, and whereas Ms. Howard has submitted a letter announcing her retirement from the Holmdel Township School District effective July 1st, 2020. Now therefore be it resolved that the Holmdel Township Board of Education accepts Ms. Howard's retirement with deep gratitude for Ms. Howard's dedication, loyalty, and outstanding services performed, and further extends to Ms. Howard its best wishes for a happy and healthy retirement.
Thank you so much. Can I have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, can I have a roll call, please? Do it. Great.
I just wanted to say that Ms. Howard will be dearly missed by her colleagues, several who are here in the audience tonight, but I know that she's going to a place where she will enjoy her brand new grandchild, just born last week, I believe.
Congratulations.
So we congratulate her on her retirement and on her becoming a grandmother.
That's awesome. I have a roll call, right? I'm ready for a roll call? Yes, roll call, please.
Ms. Flynn.
Yes, and best wishes and enjoy retirement.
Mr. Sokol.
Yes.
Mr. Reddy.
Yes, thank you for 32 years of service.
Mrs. Briamonte.
Yes, congratulations.
Mrs. Collins.
Yes, congratulations and best of luck.
Mr. Wall.
Congratulations, yes.
Mr. Foster.
Yes, congrats and best wishes.
Mr. Hammer.
Yes, and thank you very much for your service.
Mrs. Urbanski.
Yes.
Motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you. Mr. Reddy, can you read item number 18, please?
Acceptance of retirement special education teacher WRSAT school. Whereas Mr. Michael Santiago has served the Holmdel Township Public Schools with distinction since September 1st, 2004, and whereas Mr. Santiago has faithfully executed his duties with skill and competency, and whereas Mr. Santiago has earned the respect of his colleagues and community residents, and whereas Mr. Santiago has submitted a letter announcing his retirement from the Holmdel Township School District effective July 1, 2020. Now therefore be it resolved that the Holmdel Township Board of Education accepts Mr. Santiago's retirement with deep gratitude for Mr. Santiago's dedication, loyalty, and outstanding services performed, and further extend to Mr. Santiago its best wishes for a happy and healthy retirement.
Thank you. Can I have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Discussion?
So I would just like to thank Mr. Santiago for his years of service, not only as a teacher of special education in the math classrooms, but also as a coach of the boys' basketball teams and baseball teams at SATS. And I'll never forget running into Mr. Santiago at a restaurant in Asbury Park, New Jersey, on the eve before Thanksgiving, when we had a half day, where he was meeting with former players from his team who were now college graduates who still thought so highly of him that they gathered every year on the same night to just get together and check in with their teacher. Really impressive. And I'll never forget that. So we wish him well in his retirement and thank him for his service to our students.
And for those that don't know, the current 8th grade team is undefeated and most likely will stay undefeated the entire year and is absolutely destroying teams in the in the middle school league. So sort of cool that he goes out on a high note. I mean, this team is a tremendous team. So
if they lose, it's your fault. Now you just curse them.
They're not losing. That's not going to happen. Those two teams came and went.
Jeez. Knock on wood, everyone. Heat. Let me flip right here. Okay, have a roll call, please.
Ms. Flynn.
Yes, congratulations and best wishes.
Mr. Sacco.
Yes.
Mr. Reddy.
Yes, congratulations.
Mrs. Briamonte.
Yes, enjoy retirement.
Mrs. Collins.
Yes, congratulations and best of luck.
Mr. Wall.
Yes, congratulations.
Mr. Foster.
Yes, congratulations.
Mr. Hammer.
Yes, good luck.
Mrs. Urbanski.
Yes, and I just would like to say that not only was he a wonderful teacher, but just a lovely, lovely human being and a joy to talk to. So he'll be missed. Oh, he'll be missed.
Motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you. Item number 19, Mr. Sacco.
We'll need a pronunciation check on this. Is it Che? Okay. Acceptance of retirement special education Monitor Village School. Ms. Susan Che has served the Holmdel Township Public Schools with distinction since October 8th, 2008. And whereas Ms. Che has faithfully executed her duties with skill and competency, and whereas Ms. Che has earned the respect of her colleagues and community residents, and whereas Ms. Che has submitted a letter announcing her retirement from the Holmdel Township School District effective January 1st, 2020. Now therefore be it resolved that the Holmdel Township Board of Education accepts Ms. Che's retirement with deep gratitude for Ms. Che's dedication, loyalty, and outstanding services performed, and further extend to Mrs. Che its best wishes for a happy and healthy retirement.
Thank you. Have a motion.
Move.
So special education monitors are people sent from heaven, and I think Susan Che really sort of captures that, and we wish her well. Although she's already a month into her retirement, we hope she's enjoying it and will continue to enjoy her retirement.
Have a roll call, please.
Ms. Flynn.
Yes, thank you for all your time and effort, and I hope you are enjoying your retirement.
Mr. Sacco.
Yes.
Mr. Reddy.
Yes.
Mrs. Briamonte.
Yes.
Mrs. Collins.
Yes, and thank you for your service to the district.
Mr. Wall.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Foster.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Hammer.
Yes, good luck.
Mrs. Urbanski.
Yes, thank you.
Motion passes. Congratulations.
The board needs to go into closed session, but first, does any board members have any old business? Any new?
I have new business.
Okay.
It was my pleasure earlier this evening to attend a ceremony over at the township offices where our SRO, John Martin, was promoted to sergeant. One of the things that was really interesting about that ceremony is that John had quite a proficient career before he came here. There was an amazing amount of accomplishments he's made as a law officer here in Holmdel. I think we all know here at the board what a wonderful job he has done as our SRO. We're going to miss him. I know he will continue to be doing some work at Indian Hill, but we will soon have another SRO. And we certainly wish John the best of luck, and we want to thank him for his years of service, and we want to, of course, congratulate him on his promotion to sergeant. There was one other thing I did want to raise as a thought to you, Robert, based on the feedback involving our school schedule. What I would ask is that one of the things in the past that has been a driver in the dates has been the scheduling of graduation. And I would like to see, as we look at the contract for wherever we do have graduation, whether it's at Brookdale or another location, that we establish some flexibility. Because there are two things that come to mind. One is, obviously, if for some reason we have a lot of snow days next year, we certainly don't want to take more days away from the April vacation. But equally important is if we do make it through the winter with minimal snow day impact and even have those 2 days available and then be used for the April vacation, I'd like to have that flexibility of potentially moving the last day of school as well, so that we would have those 3 days that happen. So essentially, if we do have more snow days, I would certainly like the calendar to be adjusted to the back end and not during the April vacation. So if we could look into that possibility and give this district that level of flexibility, I think that would be appreciated by the board and appreciated by the residents of the town.
That's actually one of the things we were talking about today. In terms of the late end, we probably will have more flexibility with Brookdale because our friends across the border in Middletown will be ending their school year a week ahead of us. So when we compete with local schools for the use of Brookdale, so I believe there will be more flexibility, but we will check into that tomorrow because once the calendar is approved, that's the first thing we do is to look at Brookdale. So another thing that, if I may, relevant to the calendar, because I know a lot of parents are concerned about childcare and places to be able to have their children during that week that we would typically be open. And one thing that I talked with our Director of Community Programs about today, Lara Carducci, is about the possibility of having our primetime camps available Tuesday through Friday, the day after Labor Day, that entire week, both here at Indian Hill and at Village, because these two schools are not being impacted by the construction. So we're going to look sort of very quickly around, can we provide programs for young children during that week? Because we've heard from parents today that finding places to place kids when camps are over and things like that. So that's something that we're looking to do.
I don't know if what I have is new or old business, but I'm using MB as my excuse. We've been having a lot of talks about mental health and transparency, and I just have one little suggestion combining both of these. Last month, as we know, we had the MAP test for our students, and when I didn't remember that it was going to happen, and so when I went to go look on the testing schedule online, it just had blocked out 3 full weeks of what could possibly be your child's test date. I'd really recommend that you give a narrow window of when a child is going to take it, because it's very hard to make sure your child slept well and well fed for 3 weeks straight. I mean, let's just be realistic. So I understand they like to keep the window a little fluid so that teachers can pick a time that works for them, but maybe narrow that window. And I also would suggest that you remind the parents that these tests are going to come because we were told at the beginning of the year, but everyone has a very hectic life. And I frankly did not remember until the night before the test, my child told me at dinner that he was having it the next day. So an email reminder, but maybe on the Sundays before, would be very helpful for parents' mental health and the children's mental health. So just that suggestion. Thank
No,
you.
100%, that's great feedback, thank you. And by the way, just a preview of what's coming tomorrow is your children's MAP scores will be sent to you via email.
I know, I was actually going to bring that up during our initial presentation. So thank you, yes, we've been waiting for those MAP scores. One of the things on school calendar, I think we need to also think about is like what is best for the kids around this calendar. Because I think in doing the puzzle, sometimes the kids' interests are not always primary, despite we say that. So I think we need to have a better conversation going forward. We can't do much with the construction schedule going forward, but things like how does this calendar fit the kids to be better prepared to take that AP test, right? We're talking, there might be weeks where Easter falls and how the calendar falls and kids are not in school the week before the AP test. So is that a good idea? Is that a bad idea? These are things.
Here's one suggestion about the AP. Everyone was complaining about Latin and people not taking the AP Latin test, and I know it's the same day as the junior prom.
That's another issue.
That's a big reason why they don't take it. My daughter had like an hour between, two activities.
So these are the conversations that we need to have to inform that decision making. Right now, we are driven, which is best for the students, is creating and transforming the space over at SATS in the high school. But going forward, I think, and hopefully this whole calendar discussion, what it has done, it will inform better calendaring, scheduling going forward, I hope.
Yeah, and I did, back in early January, ask parents for feedback on sort of our scheduling, our calendaring practices. And so I will put that out again to our parents. I had about 18 parents respond to it.
18? Wait, 18 parents responded to a district-wide survey? Was that it? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So
I hope we can meet it next time.
So we will send that out again to get some more feedback on best
Maybe we
calendaring
can send it
practices.
back out again, yeah. Yes, that's right.
And one other thing to think about in connection with calendar is, one of the things that affects our calendar, of course, is election day because of security concerns. And if we can work with our county officials, work with township officials, and examine alternative solutions to using so many of our school facilities for the election, one thought that crossed my mind today, because I was remembering Hurricane Sandy when we had all the precincts basically in our cafeteria because we were the only building having electricity. It may be that we could have all of the precincts in the gym, which is easily contained, and therefore the security issue is not as big an issue, and we could still then have classes. Maybe that's a solution, or maybe Bella Works is a solution. But I think as we look at next year, as we, after we've continued our construction's concluded, we should also look and see how we can come up with an alternative for election day to again, maybe take that day off the calendar so we don't have this very, jagged week in connection with the teachers' conference.
So at this point, before Terrence, I've been trying to, I didn't want to segue too bluntly from the calendar discussion, but I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce our new Assistant School Business Administrator. Jessica. She will be joining us effective May 1st. And it will be or earlier, depending. Yes. So she will be starting here and be helping Michael out with the business office. So welcome to Holmdel. Thank you for taking the time to come meet with us tonight. We greatly appreciate it. Please say hi and welcome to Jessica. And her last name would be Diwasaki. I'm sorry, Jess.
It's okay.
I
still can't pronounce it.
No. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Terrence.
Yes, and welcome. The Board of Education is working on many fantastic things. A story was shared with me yesterday on a topic that I want to make sure that is front and center and stays that way, which I believe it is. We have a vaping committee that's being worked on, and I know there's an update coming later on this week. I sent an article over regarding vape alarms and things like that. The story that shared with me was a close friend of a fellow I know very well. His father's in the hospital regularly with his son, who is in a medically induced coma from vaping. The Center for Disease Control, the latest statistics, as far as I understand them, would indicate that 20% of our high school population is vaping. So what they're sharing is 1 in 5, 20% in 2018. The statistics may be changing in 2019, 2020. But if you take the student body count, take 20% of those children and put a jewel in their mouth. One of the leading cardiothoracic surgeons that you may know in the area, Holmdel resident, Dr. Hanhan, is very familiar with the topic and talks about that this needs to be out front, that we need to be talking about it. And they talk about something called popcorn lung. And I just want to share, popcorn lung is called bronchiolitis obliterans. It's permanent. It's a rare form of lung disease. It results in scarring and inflammation of the bronchioles. They're the lung's smallest airways. When they're inflamed, symptoms like coughing, shortness of breath, and difficulty breathing can occur. So what's the key point? If the statistics are accurate, 1 in 5 children in Holmdel High School are vaping. There is a permanent disease that they can contract that is killing children. It's very, very serious. Do a little bit of research, share with them, talk to them. It's not pretend. This father his son is in a coma from vaping. Other parents are at cemeteries from vaping. So I know there's a committee, so I'm not asking for an update tonight, of course, but it's not pretend. And as an additional note on a deeper issue, and then I'll conclude, we're all very familiar with an opioid epidemic that's across the country. It touches many, many, many families. And some folks think drug dealing is cool. Some kids think it's cool. They do it on the side. They're making some extra money. But if you speak to folks that are dealing with it, I've been asking them this question. Would you consider a drug dealer a form of a domestic terrorist? So, and every single one said yes. So the next cool drug dealer, the next person who's selling something to your son or daughter, I think words mean a lot. Somebody who's thinking about selling heroin, fentanyl, or whatever else in the school system, think of them more as a domestic terrorist than as somebody who's engaged in a part-time fun thing to make some extra money during school. So I just want to share that, to keep that, some of these topics that are really, really important, that are creating significant disruption and death in the community, suburban communities, urban communities, and things of that nature. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Anything else?
I was just going to say, I've been reading up on the vaping as well, you know, which surprised me is a 5% Juul pod is equal to 20 non-filtered cigarettes. So basically 1 pack of cigarettes, and then developing lungs of 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 17-year-olds, that's massive. You know, then they're like, oh, what flavor are we going to get today, and things like that. It is so scary and dangerous that, you know, I mean, I'm glad you brought it up. I think it's super important that we stay on top of it, because it's these young kids that, you know, lasting effects. I mean, going to a cemetery is not where you want to be. You know, so.
Thanks, Pete. Anyone else?
Just in that line, we don't only have to think about the high school, but this is happening in SATS, quite
Oh,
rightfully
yes.
too. Okay.
Yes, we did know that. Anything else? Okay. At this point, we'll take questions or comments from the public.
Sorry, quick.
Sorry.
Debbie Brew, 15 Cindy Lane. I just want to make a comment with respect to your comment about Brookdale being flexible on the last day. Just keep in mind that it's also project graduation, so we would have to keep in communication with project graduation leadership, because that venue will need to also be flexible. This is my 6th year on project graduation. In years past, I've literally texted them the last day. Even one year, the last day was changed because Wall Township had already had Atlantic Club, and they get precedence for the evening there, although now Atlantic Club, we're no longer doing it there, so This year we're doing it at Monroe Sports Center, so I don't know how flexible they're going to be, but I understand 8th grade dance is not necessarily anymore the same night as graduation, so maybe that doesn't matter, but project graduation is really an important event that needs to take place the night of graduation.
Thanks. Thank you, thank you.
Kimberly DeSillo, 21 Huntley Road. So my other thing, I just wanted to say, as far as the health benefit presentation, that I am in belief, and I think that a lot of people, if they were, I understand, I am a public employee, so I've been affected by Chapter 78, but as a taxpayer, I also believe that there has to be a good balance. That being said, I urge everybody to find a way out of Chapter 78 because no one goes to the store, asks how much a sweater is to the clerk, and the clerk doesn't say, well, how much do you make? Health benefits are a product. It's not like taxes where it should be based on how much you make. Family benefit should be a family benefit, in my opinion, no matter how much someone makes. So there has to be, in my district, they came out with, this is how much we collected on Chapter 78, this is how much we need, here's a percentage in the middle. So people that made less were paying more, people that were paying the most went down, and yet the board still came out with the same amount of money. It is a product, there needs to be something in the middle. I feel you as far as, the Cadillac benefits versus something, less. I would never go to Omnia. As you can tell, most people don't, if there's only 3 here that do. But I urge you to find something in the middle and get out of Chapter 78. It doesn't make any sense that a product, it is a business, and that product should not be based, it should not be on a sliding scale.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Wei Ping Wang, 19 Melbourne and Holmdel. First, Happy New Year. The first one, I have a question about where we can download the presentation we have today about the
It's going to be posted online.
And one thing I found that other than the meeting agenda and the budgetary presentation, I cannot find any presentation. Used to be I can find the CNI meeting minutes, but it's very difficult to find. I cannot find. So,
Okay, we'll look into that.
yeah.
Everything should be up there.
Okay. The second question is, I don't know if this data can be available to the public. I know there's a lot of the Holmdel residents, their professional job is data analysis, and it's good to have a professional, but it's also good if it can be available outsourcing to the community to see what we can come up.
Okay.
And the third one is it's great news to hear. This year we are 16 on the SAT. I know after moving to vocational school we are 16. I know the standard we are 32. I remember 2018 we are tied 49. So that's a great improvement. So on the other hand, it's also great if we can have this slides about how the years across different years, how we compare with or without vocational school. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Anything else?
I did have one last thing. So just so it's public, at a couple of basketball games, a bunch of parents made comments about the high school banners not being totally updated. I think one of the last updated banners might have been like the golf team, and obviously we've won multiple championships in soccer and track and field and tennis and things like that. So maybe the administration could look at it, or the high school principal could look at it, and spend that time, because when
we're in the process of getting new banners.
Even better. Thank you.
And just a quick comment, Wei Ping, just to keep in mind on that SAT score, you have to extract out about 100 of our best students who are attending the vocational schools. So we probably would be a little higher too.
Okay. Anything else? All right, so the board does have to go into closed session, and we will be coming out because we have to take action on one more item that we did not take action on before. So take a motion to go into executive session to discuss attorney-client matters, student matters that are protected by law and personnel matters.
Move it.
Second.
Show of hands. Thank you.